Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Midweek Show. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. And on today's show, the party continues, but man, it's getting late. Stick around, and bad things usually happen when you stay too late at a party. So let's, as usual, on this particular midweek podcast, we're going to speed through the topical things, the things that are top of mind, and things that are moving so far early this week. So without any further delay, let me get Barry in here and let's jump into the SPX.
For you guys, if you haven't seen the last show, I would say to catch the last one, maybe even the one before that, because we're kind of threading this through, and so we don't have to cover everything from the beginning, right?
Right.
So here we talked about the 60-20 being a target for the cash for the SPX, and
Ding, 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 ding.
ding ding. Yep, sure enough, we tapped it, pretty much twice, and then we pulled back. So the zone there is 60-20 to say 60,
50, right?
yeah, 60-50, about a 30-point spread there. But 60-20, as you can see, is exactly 50% of the square. And as you can see, that is up 315 degrees from the October 2022 low. Noteworthy level. Obviously, if this was happening up here at 360, it would be really something, and I would be it would be something to behold if we can do that entire cycle and square out at about the same time. But anyway, it doesn't take huge numbers to turn markets or even to start correction. So let's take a look at this. We're at resistance, not much to say. So for the rest of the week, what we want to see basis the cash on the daily chart, see if we can settle above 60-20 or not. Okay, we're keeping it super clean. And to the downside, our first support is 58.50, which is quite a bit of mileage there.
Yeah.
Get there.
And you also have I just keep looking at those time counts, 144, 90, and 45. Those are big.
Yeah, all those counts came in right in there, going up into that high. And you can see ever since that we kind of softened up, pulled back, and started stalling out a little bit. Okay, what else do we have? We also have, looking at the E-mini, coming off that same October low. We are 540 by 315, and we actually hit the target, went up a little bit at 60.26 is the level. And we're also there in price and time, give or take 1 day. That's okay. So keep that in mind. That's the key level of 60.26 basis the daily is what we're watching. 58.92 happens to be the first level of support on the way down. And the real, sort of the rock solid support should be 56.82. I mean, I can't even imagine that number from here, but that's the level we have. So it's really 56.82 to 57.50. You see there's a zone there right above 270. And even getting there, would be okay. It's sort of a permissible or normal kind of a pullback if you look at the other pullbacks with corrections we've had on the way up. And you can see how the corrections have been sort of tighter and tighter as we got into this cycle after that last Rebel Yell cycle we had in July.
And we did have the Rebel Yell hit today.
And today, good enough. It always sort of comes in when we pull up into a high.
Right.
So that normally, I was explaining, some people had questions. I was explaining it as it sort of points to potential change in trend windows, right? Would you describe it like that, Ben?
Absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a V reversal like we talked about. It could be an acceleration. It could be just the acceleration up stops and you get a consolidation. So you just have to watch the price action going in and out and see how it changes.
Right. And in this case, we have other things pointing to potential change in trend, mainly because we're reaching, price in Times Square. So that's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And that's like when you said, if you get a weekly, a daily, and a monthly cycle all hitting, it's a little more significant. So when we get the Rebel Yell hit with these other time counts, it becomes a little more significant.
Exactly. So here's the Dow futures. And, we had this 44,300 level. This zone really marked off, with the upper end of that being the 50% of the square at 44,867. Well, we got to the middle of that zone. That's good enough. I was expecting it to hold it somewhere in that zone. So we got to the middle and we reversed. So did we have a reversal? We took out yesterday's low in the Dow. So that's something to note, right? We're not making higher highs. So that's something to note. We'll watch that. And
And the timing with the cycle hit is also important to notice.
yeah, as it hit, at least this time, we had nice pullback right on the day.
Hmm.
And this is the December contract,
Yep.
S&P, the
Mhm.
ES. And what happened here is, when you switch to square 72,
Wow,
we're
that
up.
works well.
Yeah, we're up 180 by 72, basically a square and a half by one square, right?
Hmm.
And that is a square, meaning it's a ratio of a square out. And price and time should balance here. Let's see if it does. But that looks like a good one. So you can see how, the theme is prices have reached up into some level on everything, all of these different charts that we're watching. That's sort of the theme, right?
Hmm.
So let's keep that in mind. It's not all reaching up into thin air. It's reaching up into these levels that we have on the chart. You saw that on the cash chart. We're reaching up into the 60-20 area. Here's the ES, and Dow also tapped it. And then we have here's the ES from the October low of 22,
Hmm.
reaching up into the
Same thing.
same area.
I mean, it's
So
basically keeping with the keg party theme. It's late.
it's definitely late because this is kind of knock on the door.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's late at the party.
mhm. Now, the question is if the cops are going to say, hey, close it down, or they're going to say, hey, close it down before such and such time, right? So the
Exactly.
question is, do we
Yeah.
have a little bit of time to buy on this? Can we run it up to 360 like we have here? Well,
Hmm.
for that to happen, we would have to settle above 60, 26, 6,026. That's what would have to happen. And we'll
Sure.
watch to see if that happens. If it doesn't happen, especially with, let's say, I think the only good number this week is what, the CPI tomorrow.
CPI tomorrow. Yep.
So, let's see what the reaction is. If the reaction is a pop up and we settle on top, all right, then I think we just bought ourselves a little bit more time.
Hmm.
If we don't, then I think we have a fairly decent correction coming. And the correction doesn't have to be, we get, 3 weeks of straight down. It could be a normal
Right.
correction like we had here
Right.
or here. It could be one like this. Well, either way, I think we're up for one. So and this narrowing of the corrections being tighter and tighter is something to notice, which means if this one holds above 58.92, I would consider that to be really, really bullish,
Hmm. Hmm.
and maybe have one more push into that. Otherwise, if we take this out in some way, then I think we have a lot more to go. There's a bigger thing happening, which
Right.
means all these other bigger cycles clicked into place, along with the Rebel Yell and all of that. So we're
Hmm.
noticing the basic theme is, yeah, we have price and time ringing up here at the high. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Let's take a quick look at the 30-minute chart just to see. So on the 30-minute, we have the next resistant level, really, the target is 60.84. And the question is, if we're going to get there or not. I don't have any other numbers in between. 59.92 was the last big number. And if we get on top of it, like we have, and this is a good example of getting on top, broke through, test on top, and then we moved higher.
And held today.
And yeah, we came down. We were looking for potential false break here, had one here, ran up a little bit, false break there, came back, false break there. So we're kind of starting to do all kinds of shenanigans on the chart.
Hmm.
Why? Well, we're back into sort of a going sideways.
Yeah.
Not sort of, it's going sideways. But the theme here is just like we were talking about after the last Rebel Yell cycle, is we're starting to make lower highs and lower lows. So you guys want to watch that. So far, as long as we're between above 59.92, the short term, we're okay. We can continue to try to consolidate here and maybe have a shot at 60.84. The issue is really if we get stuck below this, if we get stuck below
Hmm.
59.92. Now, we haven't done it before. We got it up there for the first time after the election. And we've been up here very clean. This is really what you call holding above. We held above the zone down here, held above the line, really. But when you start seeing the markets making lower highs, you really want to watch the bottom end of that, what's happening down below. And
Hmm.
so we're watching this 59.92 for tomorrow for sure to see, if we're going to hold it or not. And if you guys want daily commentary, we both post on X, so follow us, and the links are in the description. It's there for you guys to watch. So that's that. And the only last other thing I wanted to point was this big
Oh, we're stepping out.
we're stepping out. I think we're done with the circle part. So
Right.
and now we're outside, and I don't want to read too much into this, but let's just say we got pretty damn close to this resistant line that I had in place.
Mhm.
Close enough, and we're below this sort of the most upper end that we should reach on this run, at least on the parabolic kind of a move. So we're, timing wise, we're okay. Are we above, a little bit above 144? Yeah, but we're right into a 1/8 of the next square, which is also a ratio that we can use.
Mhm.
Basically, the more important thing on the longer time frames, larger time frames at the time count. So we're up, going up into 108 weeks, which is a really decent count. So we're watching that, and we do have, as you guys saw, we have price from a lot of other places, and prices here also. If I turn on the eighths and quarters and all of these things, so let's see what happens from here. We're just marking out the time, so we know kind of where we are. And it's
Mhm.
good to know that we're at the very top of this is, technically this is a parabolic move, right, Ben?
Yep. Sure.
And you guys can go study what happens at the end of parabolic moves. So this is what we have, and we're watching the sort of the price action from here on the lower time frames, daily charts, calendar day charts, and all the way to the 30-minute chart that we just looked at here. So this is sort of our canary. So we'll see whatever's breaking down in the price action early on.
Correct.
Yep. And I know you're going to cover the Nasdaq
And
and
Bitcoin, the
Bitcoin.
star of the week, Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yep. So let's see here. Hold on. Let's look at some of the other charts that we cover on the
That's an
midweek.
interesting one, huh?
Yeah. So Russell, this is about close to a double top as you can get,
Yeah.
right there. Very, very tight. And
It's also trying to stay on top of the 180. Let's see if it can be successful.
yeah, that's what I was looking at. Russell's not the one to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but you can see how, we're clean above the 90,
Hmm.
and from on this leg, and over here we are above the 180. So the key level, I'll just share the level with you guys so you know. Let's say 23.97 would be the level there to see if we can hold or not. I can't imagine it being that close and not doing a false break. So
Right.
I'm beside myself just to see what would happen. Like you can see, before the false break was there, we were up
Hmm.
a couple of bars before we turned down. There was a false break here, false break here, false break down here back in 2015.
Hmm.
So, false breaks are not something new to the Russell, and here, not quite getting one is yeah, it's impressive. So maybe it's not done. So we'll see.
Hmm.
But that's the level to watch. We'll see how that pans out. For now, not much to do. If we can actually settle above this is a weekly chart. So if we can really settle above that, okay, great. That opens up a whole nother, at least a half a square.
Hmm.
And to the downside, you can see the Russell really trades in these half squares very clean. And, we did all this 22 to 24 was a really tight consolidation in the lower half of the square. Then we flipped to the top. So it's possible we'd spend some more time in here if we fail. Okay. That's
Yep.
just another way to look at it. So here's the 10-year.
Bonds have started getting hit again.
Yep. Yep. So here, basically, we touched on this. Maybe I can't remember if we touched it last week or not, but ever since we came up into these highs, ever since we've been covering it, I think on the midweek, we've been
Hmm.
bearish. And when we got to the 50%, we wanted to see if we can hold above or break. And as soon as it broke, you can see the next bar couldn't
Test.
quite, yeah, test it, couldn't quite make it. And then we just started failing and just sort of after the last, we had an inside bar, then one little, very tiny little bar, and, then just everybody just gave it up. So,
Looks
and
like it's going to test those lows, doesn't it?
sure, yeah, I think, they're all going to get tested. It's just a matter of, how slow the dance is.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give the next support level, as far as the square goes, would be 108 and a quarter. So we'll work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Next chart would be the yen. So the yen, we were, from up here, high in July, obviously bearish because we were watching the dollar, around that time also, and we came down to support double bottom, and we did that. I mean, interesting to hear was, we did 135 to high, and then we did 45 into a
Mm-hmm.
correction, and now we ran up a 45 into the next next time window. But here, by tomorrow, if we really don't do anything, I think we can extend that back, and if we can get going,
Mm-hmm.
we'll touch the dollar a little bit in a minute. But basically, long as it's above, the yen's above 151 and a half, 44 to be exact on this, it's bullish. That's all we can say. And if I put the 90 here, it would be the same thing because we're starting off at 90. You can see, let me show you. So there you go. So
Yeah.
from here, 45 would put us up onto the 18th. So we could run up till then. And looks good, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Let me look at what else did I want? Oh, the dollar. Hold on one second. Crude, not much to talk about.
Nope. Still chopping.
Mm-hmm.
There's the dollar.
There's the dollar. And if you guys have been watching us, we've been bullish since this low came in, and especially after we recovered this 50% of the square. I added this ABCD just for fun. And
Mm-hmm.
well, just for fun maybe, but
Looks like it's tracking.
yeah, it's tracking pretty well. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, 107 and a quarter is really the square level. It's because it's just the square where the square is sitting. But the sort of the theme here is we're going to get up to here. We're probably going to take that out, at least try to go for a false break. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, we're basically running this entire. You can see how long we've been doing this exact zone. If you want to call it that. So let me show you that. You can see that. So from 22, end of 22, we've been under this 60-degree line,
Mm-hmm.
basically trading back and forth within this square, which
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can see how well it's been managed. However
Mm-hmm.
they do it, it's well done. And
Mm-hmm.
now we came lower. Now we're moving to the upper end. So the big question is, so for the dollar to really take off, which, we're thinking that it would. I'm thinking that it will. Obviously, it has to take out this 107 and a quarter. So that has to happen first. So we'll see. Up until that happens, there's no big bull market in the dollar. So for now, it's just normal price movement. If you can see this.
In the range.
Yeah, it's in the range. Only difference is now we're sort of reaching towards the upper end of the range.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. And that's with the dollar. Gold, not much. Gold is sort of pulling back.
Correcting. Yeah.
Correcting is normal. Oh, well, let me talk about the euro since we cover that every Friday. So the euro, 109 came up right to the square, and we talked about that, being a short and how it's going to be weak below 108. And well, this time it ran right down into the support area, which is the 50% of the square. It's 105.95. And so obviously, if this thing goes, the next level is 104.859, 04859.
Mm-hmm.
And well, when we get there, we'll see how to handle it. But for now, it's short. And it's possible, we really haven't had any good counter trend, even a 1-day counter trend bar. So, it's possible that we get one somewhere in here before it's all said and done. But you can see this area is pretty solid. We've held there, we've held here before, back in April. And this ABCD target is pretty much where the lows came in 23 of October, October lows here.
Sure.
So that's something to notice. Other than that, just the Hang Seng we talked about, just to touch on this.
Look at that misdirection.
Yeah, perfectly. And I think Friday we talked about, hey, if we can't hold above this, we break the trend line, we're going lower, probably to test 19,450. And sure enough,
But look at the
But
misdirection. The day before, it had a big move up,
yeah.
like opened up high, closed
Uh-huh.
on the lows, and then they gap it the next day.
Yeah, it's a tricky little market. So
Oof.
and then it gaps, right to where the
Yeah.
support is.
Yep.
Kind of hung in there. It looked like, oh, we're pulling it back up, closed higher, and then the next day,
Boom.
whack. So anyway, it looks like we're correcting, and where there could be a nasty ABCD here. So
Hmm.
I think there's a lot. It's up in the air. Basically, below 2380, I wouldn't be expecting any big runs until now that we're below it. Let's just see how we test the 72-degree line and also 19450.
Hmm.
And the 72 line is 19231. Well, that's all I have for now. Let me put it back to you. We'll talk about the Nasdaq and Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Okay, finally got on top, and
Yep.
looks like it's trying to hold on top.
It's trying. I mean, the key thing, okay, so today we had, we had a pullback. So the daily is turned down, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
have this down bar. So now we got to see. The key level is, can we stay on top of this 2838?
Yeah,
20,838 is the number daily basis. We get below it, then this all looks false breaky, right?
for sure. And what's really getting my attention is that 90 high to high, which usually is a really good count to
Yeah,
watch.
and I mean, listen, we're in the ballpark, right? We're within a day or two of that high right there.
Yeah,
One,
we're in the
two
ballpark.
days. So, and we have a 45 low to high. We have a 72 low to high.
Mhm.
So the numbers are there in addition to the rebel yell. So we just got to watch. Price will tell us now, right? If we can't stay above 20,838, the cycle turned. It
Yeah,
got turned.
yeah.
And that's all we
And
can say.
this 90 counts and some of these high to high counts, if we're kind of consolidating into that and kind of lazy, it really doesn't count for much, and they're not that reliable. But when you're running up into it like we're doing here, they're active cycles, so we really have to
Yeah,
watch that.
really,
So,
really pay attention.
mhm.
Let's quickly look at the weekly. Here's another number which is not far from 20,800, 21,082. You can see so far this week the low is held, but can it close the week above this half square?
Mhm.
And again, here's your previous high. So it's a pretty critical spot. Lastly, let's look at the monthly. See how close the monthly is to the daily, the number 2878.
Mhm.
So it's big. Because remember, we had price and time at this high.
Mhm.
And so if this turns out to be a false break, then that high is, again, validated. So we'll see. The number is 20,800. Above it, we can stretch out and make higher highs. Below it, the odds favor, it was a kind of false break. Anything else to add on Nas?
Well, I was just going to say from the low in 2022, we've done square and a half up, so
Hmm.
that's something.
Hmm.
um, to match the coming off the lows. We're doing three squares, and we have square and a half coming off the 22 low,
Correct.
and so I mean, which is a 50% point, right? So,
Yeah. So let's say we did a square and a half up. If we do three-quarters of a square, I mean, that takes us down here as a correction.
mhm. Well, if you look at the last decent correction,
Hmm.
that was almost a square, seven
Almost.
eighths. Yeah.
Yeah. 7/8. Yep. Right here. So if this, cycle hits and price confirms it, there could be a very decent correction. I mean, you're
Mhm.
talking about down to about 15, 16,000,
Right.
which is a pretty serious move. So let's go to the star of the week, the star of the party.
Hmm.
There's Bitcoin. Now, if you go back and listen to previous shows, because we cover Bitcoin every week, we
Hmm.
said this consolidation, while frustrating and while, annoying, is bullish. And when we quickly look at the monthly, we'll show you why. But it was bullish on its own because look where the low came in, right above the previous highs, in this range. We had this box drawn in, the low came in there, and we never looked back. Right. From that low, we just kept making higher lows and higher highs.
Well, I remember ever since the September, I remember when you called out the August low And I'm not that keen on Bitcoin, right? But I kind
Right.
of watch it and try to learn from it, see
Mm-hmm.
what's going on.
Sure, sure.
But I remember ever since the September pullback came in, you've been bullish. It was saying, "Hey, it's going to go higher. It's going higher." Then we got to the higher. Then you're like, "Look, it's holding above here. If this breaks out, it's going to fly." And here we are.
Yeah, last week or last couple of weeks we said this 67,850. If we can hold above that, right? We went
Mhm.
up, pulled back. Look at the pullback.
Yeah.
There's your false break right before the move,
Hmm.
and then boom.
Yeah.
And that's why you try, when you're coming out of these consolidations, this is what you try to catch. We talk about that fast move, that third move up, right?
Yeah.
One, two, boom.
And
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 there it
that's
is.
also why double tops don't work anymore.
Right. So now, okay, so now what do we do? Well, 85 280 is the number, right? We want to
Yeah.
stay above that.
If it's
It
super
could,
strong, yeah.
yeah, if it's super strong, it could pull all the way back to here, 73,666. Remember we were talking about that number of the devil,
Hmm.
73,6.
Yep. I remember that.
It can pull right back to here and it's still bullish.
It reminds me of gold long-term chart. Remember that? How we had this level.
Same thing. This
Yeah.
high level consolidation at previous all-time highs, and then it just blasted. So there's
Right.
nothing bearish about this chart. Now, are we going to be checking for, time and price and all these other things that, because it always looks bullish at the top, right? So
Well, I mean, the only concerning thing is the vertical nature of the beast here.
yeah.
That's
So we have to watch price action. We have to see, okay, where's support coming in? Where do buyers step in again? And then that'll give us the clue as to, what the further big picture trend is. But let's take a look at the monthly because I think if you zoom out, then you can really understand why this is still
Mhm.
bullish. So here's your 7 8 month consolidation, right? And we kept talking about the fact that this whole thing is occurring in the same area where there were the all-time highs were back in 21,
Mhm.
22. And then once we had this first up bar, we said, okay, pay attention, folks. And here we go. So monthly basis, what do we want to see? We want to, if it's really strong, we're going to stay above this 880, 70, 44. It could pull all the way back to this 67, 419 and still be bullish. So let's let the price action play out. If we close the month and have a full bar above this, the target is 94 and then the top of this square. I didn't even write it in, but that's probably like over 100,000, about 107,000. So you just got to let it play out. Cycle wise, um, low to high here, the terminal high, we did 5 months. So 5 months takes us to end of January, takes us to January.
Mhm.
So, and that's it. I mean, the key theme is it's late at the party. We really got to watch price action. Cycles are coming in.
Well,
So,
one other thing, Ben, on this, I was just while you were talking about that, I was looking at my daily chart, Bitcoin chart
right,
from the November low in 22, kind of where, everything got started there, where your red bar is, to the high is 576 degrees, which on a square of 72, that's 8 squares of 72. Eight, okay? So that's important.
right.
And that's 576. That's right at the high. And from that low to this high is 720 bars. Okay.
There you go.
So yeah, 720 makes sense, right? Because it's November. Yeah.
Hmm.
So 720 so 576 by 720. So that kind of really lines up with some of the other cycles that we're seeing. And I would say, I don't know. It seems like Bitcoin people never get rid of their Bitcoins; they only buy. So then, so don't worry about it if that's all you do. But if you go in and out, this is probably a good time to maybe cash some in, at least
Agreed.
from the square perspective, right?
And I think that's a good way to end the show. Look at your holdings, see where you can take profit, where it makes sense as we try and decipher what this price and time means. Is it a major high? Is it just a high? We're going to get a correction and then go keep making higher highs.
Mhm.
We're going to try and help figure that out. And of course, we'll keep you posted as to what happens. Anything else to add, Barry?
Not to Bitcoin. That I think that squares something important. I would watch that, and I think your 87.44 here monthly is a decent number. That would indicate if that kicks in to into a bigger something bigger.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, no, we're good.
Well, listen, this is the Rapid Fire Midweek Show. We hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe and like and ring the bell and all that sort of stuff. We're trying to grow the channel this year, and you guys have done a great job helping us. So, good job, Barry, and we'll talk to you guys on the weekend.
Thanks, Ben. We'll talk to you soon. See you
All
guys
right,
Friday. Bye bye.
bye.